All right, guys, we're back. And so a lot has happened in the course of the last couple of hours, right? So first of all, I wanted to get on here and explain what I think is happening throughout this entire frickin' country. All right, we have a huge, massive, outrageous problem that is happening, and it has to deal with fraud. Clearly, you probably saw one of Nick Shirley's videos going to Minnesota, knocking on these doors of these daycares. There's no kids there. People are not answering. His poor son, Timmy or Tommy, whatever the fake name is still looking for a place. So if you have room or you have availability, hit up Nick. But anyway, I would say that in the grand scheme of things, all of the places that Nick visited, I think there's a high probability, probably 75 to 80% or more, that a lot of these places were committing some kind of fraud. I will tell you that level of fraud is not unique to the Somali people, okay? This happens, it doesn't matter what race, creed, religion, nationality, doesn't really matter. This happens at scale, and it's happening throughout the country. The reason that I know this is happening throughout the country is because no matter where you go, no matter where you look, no matter what systems that you're in, whether it be healthcare, whether it be, again, daycares, whether it be SNAP benefits, there's all of these layers of different types of people, again, different types of races. It doesn't matter what the hell you are, all committing the fraud. And last night, I believe it was, made a post about this on X, and that post kind of, I don't know why or what for, but it really blew up, and I'm going to share my screen in a couple minutes here, but I want to explain the reason why I got to this point. I've known about this for a very, very long time, and it's one of those things that I didn't talk about. I'm in a very unique position to know about this. You want to know why? And a lot of people commented, I didn't read all the comments, right, on the Twitter or X post, but they were saying, I'm a real estate agent, what do I know about daycares? Well, let me tell you what I know about daycares. Okay, first of all, Massachusetts is a pretty unique spot to have a daycare. You want to know why? I cannot tell you the amount of times that I have walked inside of a single family home, a building with multiple units, an apartment, or whatever the hell it is, and in the living room, placard on the wall is a license for a daycare. That's right. They are all over the creation here. I'm willing to bet that you wouldn't be able to walk one block and knock on a door and not find a daycare somewhere here in Massachusetts. The number of daycares here is outrageous. Now, that's one layer of this. The second layer of this, I have kids, my wife and I. My daughter's 7, my son is 4. Do you know how much, if you're watching from another state, do you know how much it costs to raise a kid here in Massachusetts or to send them to daycare? It's like $25,000 a child. It's one of the highest inside of the entire country. The only second highest, I believe, is Washington, D.C. But I think we're right there. It's like us, Washington, California, of course, New York, like all of these high fraud areas. This is where this is happening. So anyway, long story short, I walk into some of these buildings. Again, been selling real estate for like 11 years. I was a contractor I've been in buildings since the day I got out of high school, okay? Whether it be in construction, doing electrical work, or selling them. I walk in a lot of these places and I'm thinking to myself, if somebody saw what I saw, there is no possible way. How is an inspector going into these places and issuing a license for a daycare? Really, I wouldn't let my daughter's pet hamster stay in one of these places. Not every single place, okay? But a lot of them, okay? It's happening at scale, and it's happening at a lot of these places, and some of them are absolutely filthy. It's disgusting. So when people say, what do I know about this? Guess what? I know quite a bit about it because I've been inside of multiple daycares, okay? And I've seen it happen. And then what's even more strange is that you meet some of these people, whether they're the renter or the owner, whatever it may be, and you try to talk to them about, where's the washer and dryer? They can't speak a lick of freaking English, okay? They cannot speak a lick of English, and they're either around my age, I'm 40, or younger than me. They can't speak the language, yet they have a placard that they have a daycare here in Massachusetts? Like, what are they? They're getting off the boat, they're opening up a daycare, and they're watching, they're watching these kids and they can't even speak English. It just seems outrageous to me. And by the way, this has nothing to do with Somalis. This has nothing to do the race, culture, creed. It doesn't matter. The fraud is happening everywhere. Who is to blame are the leaders inside of these states. Okay. Tim Walz, this guy is a mega nitwit, okay? Like other level, okay? It's insane how stupid this guy is. And the same thing is happening throughout multiple states. This is not a red or blue state problem. This is throughout the entire country. And it's my generation, okay? It's the millennial generation who are really getting affected the most by this, right? Because a lot of us are in our 40s, late 30s, early 40s. Some people are struggling to buy a house. We're struggling to send our kids to daycare. We're struggling for this. We're struggling for that. And these are the people that are the most disenfranchised. It just so happens that the Somali people, unfortunately, are committing quite a bit of the fraud in Minnesota. But I'm here to tell you that this is happening at scale everywhere. Okay, it is happening everywhere. So look, I'm going to show you what is actually happening and some of the conclusions that I made thus far. This video is going to be a continuation of an investigation that I'm hoping that this video, at least, will get to a point where other people will reach out to me, okay? Because we need to stop this. We need to make things more affordable for us. Okay, things need to be more affordable for us, not less affordable, because we have these people that are basically hijacking the system. That's what the problem is. And really what it's doing, it's causing all of this chaos and this divide, a social divide, because of these tools and systems that were easily breachable, that these leaders of these states, like Tim Walz, allowed to happen. Okay, they are the ones that are the architects of the fraud, okay? This is, they're the part of the inception of the fraud. So let me show you what the hell I'm talking about right now. This was the post I made, when was it? It was less than 24 hours ago. This got a ton of views, okay? A ton of views. Now, here's what I did. Everybody's like, oh, well, he says this is Boston, but it clearly says here, like, people are so stupid. It clearly says 20-mile radius around Boston. People were wondering how you get to this point. I will show you. I went directly to here, the mass.gov website, okay? Licensed childcare search. You type in Boston, I did a 20-mile radius, and bing, bang, boom, this is what pops up. These are the daycares within a 20-mile radius. It's almost 4,000 freaking daycares within a 20-mile radius. Ridiculous. A ridiculous amount of daycares. Now, you would think to yourself, as I was, with all these daycares, how the hell is it humanly possible that it's going to cost upwards of $50,000+ to send 2 kids to daycare? How is that humanly possible? Really? How is that possible? So, I pulled all of the data. I downloaded this as an Excel spreadsheet. Now, I'm working on the entire state of Massachusetts. Maybe somebody's further along than I am, but this is what I came up with. If I go, this is like the master spreadsheet. Hang on, let me see if you could see this. 1 second here. Let me go back. Let me make this smaller. Sorry, I'm very unprepared. This is a very impromptu video. Got it? All right, here we go. So let me go back to here. Let me move this up a little bit. This one here. Okay? Let me move this over. You see where it says count? That is the total number that of daycares that are in that 20-mile radius. So I'm looking at this, and then I go to licensed first issue date. And if I go here, and I start at 1980, I scroll down, and I got to the end of 2019, which is right here. And I pulled this number here. How come it's not giving me the, here we go, count. 2,300. So between the years of 1980 to the end of 2019, there's been 2,300 licenses first issued for a daycare to open. So then I went and I did this. Now remember, this is just in the vicinity of Boston, Massachusetts, in a 20-mile radius. Then I took this number here and I went down to the end of 2025. And I have a count of 1,626. That's in the course of 5 years. So you mean to tell me in 5 years' time, we almost matched what it took 40 years to get to from 1980 to 2020? That seems absolutely insane to me, okay? That is ridiculous. So then I got to thinking, what the hell happened between the years of 2020 to 2025 beside COVID? All right. That's when I started to look at the budget. And that's when everything starts to come together. So If you go to the Department of Early Education and Care, this is again for Massachusetts if you're watching from somewhere else, you go to historical spending, you go to grants and subsidies. I would assume that grants and subsidies is more than likely the portion of this budget where a lot of people are getting their, let me move this, are getting their subsidies from in order to pay for the children's daycare. All right. Now, here's the crazy thing about this. If you look at this is the key. Okay, this is the key here. If you look at the numbers, we started at 2022 expended at $185 million. 2023, $574 million. 2024, $551. 2025 projected was $502. And 2026, we're projecting over 400. Of course, it's more than likely going to be more than this. Now, you're probably wondering, well, where the hell, Mike, where did this money come from? This came through the C3, what we called the C3 stabilization grants. This, to my knowledge, and somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, this was COVID relief money. This COVID money got funneled into this program and was used. And I'm not saying that this is a bad thing to fund the daycares, okay? It's not a bad thing to fund the daycares, but this is where a lot of this money came from and went to. So as you could see, as the money increased, so did the spending. How convenient, because we had an influx of daycares that opened at outrageous rates, okay? It went from, I think the statistic, here, let me see what I said here. I worked on this last night. Okay. From 1980 to 2020, there were 2,300 licenses, roughly 57 and a half a year over the course of 40 years. 2020 to 2025, 1,627 licenses issued at 271 a year, a 4 times jump. That didn't make any sense to me until I started to look at the money and the money involved. Again, I'm not saying there shouldn't be daycares, but what I am saying is that the scale of the daycares that are opening, there is absolutely no human way freaking possible that people are not committing some levels of fraud, either to open the daycare or to remain opened. Okay? That's all I'm trying to say. Now, you might also be looking at this, where the childcare grants to providers. You want to know what this is? These numbers here that are going up and these numbers that are going down that are shrinking, this is from the millionaire's tax. This money is from a amended version of the millionaire's tax. So the millionaire's tax that was supposed to go to fixing roads and schools is actually being redistributed and funneled into the child care grants to providers, which is another portion of where they're getting the money from. So that's where this money is coming from. Now, you might ask yourself, well, what happens if they stop collecting as much money from the millionaire tax? What is going to happen to all these daycares that are getting some of this money? Well, they have something called a safety net that they could always decide, I think, to pull from to make up for a gap, okay? But basically, that is what's happening. Now, this leads me to the other part of this conversation, which is we have a couple things going on here. Let me sum up what I'm talking about. So number one, we had the fraud in Minnesota. We have what I believe to be just as much fraud happening here in Massachusetts. The reason that I think that this is happening is because I forgot to mention this. Somebody sent me this video, and I'm going to play this for you right now.
Somalis. My entire FYP today has been Nick Shirley, Somalis, and daycare fraud in Minnesota. And now it's starting to slowly transition to Ohio and similar fraud. And I keep commenting in comment sections, but I'm just going to make a video now that this similar fraud happens here in Massachusetts. I used to work for early intervention, and when I had an appointment to service a child who went to a daycare that received vouchers, I was never let in 100% of the time. Never let in. I was either not let in or no one would come to the door. And then since I didn't service that child, I did not get paid for my time because early intervention is part of the Department of Public Health. And there was one time when someone from a daycare that received vouchers did actually come to the door, and they told me that the child wasn't there. So then I had to contact the parent, and the parent assured me that they dropped their child off that morning, but I wasn't let in. So similar fraud.
Just so you know, there is similar fraud, but the reason that I think that happened is because, and this has happened in other states as well, where the parents are in on the frickin' fraud itself, where they say that they're dropping their kid off at the school. You go to the school to check out the kid. They won't let you in to see the kid because what these businesses are doing is that they're charging the state basically to subsidize the payments for these kids that are not even showing up there. The parents are saying that the kids are showing up there, and then both the daycare and the parent allegedly are splitting the money. This is happening. Like, this is, I know this is anecdotal evidence, but this is happening, guys. This is happening, and it's happening at scale.
It happens probably across the country, but I know for a fact from working for early intervention that it does happen in Massachusetts as well.
Absolutely. And we need more people like this to come together, and we need more people like this to either listen. If you want a platform and you want to talk about this, you want to come on live, okay, I'll send you a Zoom invite today and we could talk about this, because I'm sick and tired. I am sick and tired of the costs of, this is the whole point, okay? Everything is so freaking expensive. If you're raising a child, I don't care where you're raising them in the entire country, but especially if you were in New England somewhere, especially if you're in Massachusetts, it is so costly. And then we have these losers that decide to come here yesterday. They open up these freaking daycares, and I think, honestly, all of the kids that have come here, I think that they just overpopulated these daycares. Like, I think that's realistically what's happening. Because how is it humanly freaking possible that we must have millions of daycares at capacity in this entire state? Like, that's what's going on. Here, let me show you one more thing. Do you want to know what the total capacity is based on this? Based on these numbers? Let me show you something. This is the total capacity of daycares, child count in these daycares. Let me pull this up for you. Hold on. Total count 1,000. Let me pull it up so you could see it. There you go. It's 134,000 slots available. That's within a, again, 20-mile radius outside and including Boston. I know there's a lot of people that live in Boston, okay? I'm not discrediting that. What I am trying to tell you is that the barrier to entry to open up a daycare here is very low, which is a good thing in one hand, because it does provide an opportunity for people that want to run something legitimately. But it also provides an opportunity for bad actors to open up these basically scams and these fraud daycares throughout the entire state. And that's realistically what I think is happening. And when you look at the correlation between the number of daycares that have opened since 2020 to 2025 versus the previous 40 years, and it almost matches in 5 years' time what happened in 40, something is going on, okay? Something is absolutely going on with the daycares here in Massachusetts. And the problem between Minnesota and Massachusetts, and the difference between the two, is that all of these are in homes. So you can't just go knock on, the Leering Center door and ABC whatever and see if there's kids there, okay? Not that I'm going to do that anyway. I'm just saying that there's not even an opportunity to do that, because I think the majority of the fraud is happening in clusters within the same either family members or groups of people or whatever it may be. And it's all happening at it's not very deep, but it's very wide, if that makes sense. So I think that what's happening is it's happening in clusters. And these are clusters of let's say, condos or multifamily homes or whatever it is. And what is happening, and I'm going to find it, by the way. And what's happening is they are all using these single apartments, single condos, or potentially even a single family home if it's really outside of Boston. They're using those as the daycares. That's what's happening. Okay, and their capacity is not the same as it is in Minnesota. That's just the fact. So I think it's happening at scale with the smaller capacity. But so there's probably more people committing fraud at a smaller scale, if that makes sense. So like, you're not going to have one building that is committing $5 million in fraud, but you might have 50 buildings that are committing $1 million in fraud. That is going to be the difference between Massachusetts and a place like Minneapolis, because again, the barrier to entry to open a daycare is very, very low, which provides the barrier to entry for fraud to be very, very, very high. And it's very unfortunate, because who gets stuck with the bill? We do. And again, this is no, race, creed. I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me. I care about the people enabling the nonsense. I care about the nitwits that are out here that are pacifying the American public that like we're doing something wrong for pointing it out. No, you guys are the people that started this in the first place, and that's why we are in the position that we're all in. That's the truth. That's what they don't want you to hear, but that is the truth. They want us blaming these, believe me, they want us blaming these different communities so that the blame is not on them. That is a fact, okay? So for everybody that's out there blaming this or blaming that, yes, they're at fault, okay? 110%. But who's more at fault? The person that created the mechanism for this group of people to do what they did, or the group of people to do what they did, right? It's the people that are the architects for the mechanism to create the fraud itself. That's the problem. That is the problem. So anyway, I'm going to keep updated on this, and we'll see where we're at. But I will guarantee you that this is like one head of the snake. Okay, like Maine, another problem up there. Huge problems up there too. I might even cover Maine, but I have so much data that I've been looking at for the last 2 days. As you could tell, I'm a little bit nuts. I've been staring at this screen forever. But yeah, that's where we're at for now. I will see you on the next video. Bye-bye.